Did I have time to start yet another book, take notes, self-reflect, write down some things I should probably have goals on, develop strategies, shoot a new video, design new graphics, and do the work that it requires since I started on day one? No, of course I did not. Hey, and welcome to my channel. My name is Samantha, and I am a copywriter and creative producer. In my real life, which you may not know about, but since this channel is new, I'll go ahead and explain. I kind of love analytics and learning about productivity and efficiency and behavioral science and anything that makes work more interesting, my life less of a cluster, and enables me to say yes to things that I want to do and absolutely not to those I do not. And that has led me down many rabbit holes, but it's also led me to creators and content that has energized my creative capacity and made me want to be better at things that I may have been apathetic about in the past. Or I don't know, I just felt like I couldn't do or couldn't commit to the time that it would take. And it has been such a relief to find out that there are my kind of people out there who appreciate a good Excel doc, a good Notion spreadsheet, and who like to plan and strategize, and who, after watching a ton of videos on the subject, still goes out and buys the book to read for themselves. I am themselves. I got super energized this past week after watching some videos on the 12-week year, a time goal management system that basically breaks up a few big goals that you might have had for the whole year and condenses them to 12 weeks. And the strategy of this book is the same as the title, the 12-week year. Get more done in 12 weeks than others do in 12 months. And guys, this book was published over a decade ago. So this is not new science. It's not a new way of approaching goals. It's just the first time that I've heard about it. And after watching all these videos, I immediately felt compelled to try it for myself. So did I have any goals already laid out to throw into this plan? No. Did I have time to start yet another book, take notes, self-reflect, write down some things I should probably have goals on, develop strategies, shoot a new video, design new graphics, and do the work that it requires since I started on day one? No, of course I did not. In all irony, this is like the second time I filmed this because, well, my dog barks, but also, you know, we don't need to talk about how bad it was. One of the great things about this book being 10 years old is that there are a ton of people who have already done this experiment and have, shared the things that they've learned online. Basically, it's just like, you don't have to join a program. You don't have to buy a course, and there's no shame in that. I do it all the time, but you don't have to, and you don't even have to track things the way that I am planning to. And some of the other creators have gone into way more depth than I have, and I'll share their videos, and I find it fascinating AF, but I am trying to work on my obsessive qualities. So let's just get into it. This is my copy of the book. As you can tell, it's a well-worn digital copy, just as pristine now as it was when I bought it a few days ago. I agree. It has one of those unfortunate covers.
Oh my God, ew, David!
It's the perfect book for a digital read. To reiterate the idea behind this book, it's all about maximizing productivity and trying to maintain a laser focus on a few major goals you're trying to accomplish. Instead of spreading yourself out over an entire year, you're channeling all the energy of that, goal making into a shorter, more manageable time frame. So just thinking about it broadly, when you're zeroing in on goals for 12 weeks, you're essentially lighting a fire under your own ass. And some of the planning will break those goals down into weeks and days, and they're to keep the momentum alive.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
There's no room for the I'll do it tomorrow, because tomorrow is literally like, you got plans already. As someone who discovered and set up this whole thing in one day, and it now being 5 days later, I feel like, yes, I finally do have a more intentional to-do list, but it's also, due today. So let's talk about the urgency about it. With a whole year ahead, I think it's easy to get complacent about these goals, to even forget about them. And I think that's how I got disillusioned with goals in the first place. There's just too much pressure, and I wasn't given a time frame, or I didn't make one, or they weren't realistic. I felt like I had to change everything all at once. And because there was no process behind that, it was just kind of like a light switch. It was just overwhelming, disorienting, not sustainable. Don't let me say sustainable. That shit's not sustainable. With fewer goals on your plate, you are not scattered. You're not trying to keep up with a ton of things. I just feel like without like a process, you're giving everything to select goals. You're honing in on that and just doing the damn thing. Just ignoring all that clutter and really focusing in on the few things. And the thing about the 12-week year is that it's all about intensity, intention, and immersion. I'm planning to girl boss too close to the sun, and I'm going to enjoy it. One of the key components of the system is regular check-ins. And for the past 2 months, I have been putting time on my calendar every morning from like 9 to 10. And I block this time out as a meeting, as a check-in. And I usually try and do this first thing because it allows for kind of gentle way into your day where I can kind of reevaluate where I left off the day before. I can make modifications to my schedule based on things that have happened, in the, 8 hours since I've been working. And I can also prioritize, what I have got going on for that day. And this is where a good tracking system really comes into play. I have the Notion app open, always like pinned on top of my browser, because I use Notion for every damn thing. But the check-in time and page is kind of where I can see all the shit that's happening. And you don't have to do it every day. You don't have to do it every week. But as you complete tasks, I would just suggest some way to kind of keep track of that for yourself. I honestly thought about some gold stars, but you get the idea. I think it just keeps you honest about what you've been able to accomplish in a week. And it also helps you set yourself up, for the week by week for success. Your goals for these goals is just to stay on course. So with this condensed time frame, every action, every missed opportunity feels magnified. I felt it already. And that's because we've given a little more weight to accomplishing tasks directed at certain goals. Not everything, but certain goals. These goals. And I think once we are focusing just on those goals, you are going to feel a heightened responsibility to own those efforts. And that's it. Maybe also have some clarity regarding those goals. Is it really a goal that fits in with your life right now? You may think it's important, but is it really for you? In watching the videos, especially the ones who have finished, maybe multiple rounds of the 12 weeks, it's interesting to see how some goals were completely demolished, like they killed that shit, right? And how other goals almost never got off the ground. So I'm really curious what that means for the goals that I set. One of the main things I'm interested to see with this process isn't just about setting goals. It's about living them, breathing them, and making a journey of it, no matter how cringeworthy that sentiment is. And it is. One of the most relatable obstacles of traditional planning is that we get excited and start this whole thing, And then when we don't see immediate results, we get discouraged. And goal setting, planning, strategy, achieving, it's all a long game. And that frantic last minute sprint at the end is us feeling like we're about to lose. Who hasn't been there? This system is supposed to be the antidote to that because you're not focusing on a list of resolutions, right? You're focusing on a small number of things that you're about to go hard on for 12 weeks. As I'm planning what my goals are, I want to make sure that as I break them down, I'm not overloading myself because that's when it starts to get unsustainable. And when you've set goals previously, I think it's important to kind of just like look back at your process and figure out like what worked, what didn't. And while technically this is a new system for me, some of the goals I'm setting aren't necessarily new. They have been marinating and being put to the side, for lack of a better word, for months, maybe even years, really. And I'm one of those idiots who encourages people to dream big. I cannot help it. I love the sentiment. Big goals are great. They're aspirational, they're dreamy, they can also be extremely overwhelming. And once that state of overwhelm is kind of like setting in, it's a slippery slope to disillusionment. Candidly, none of these are the big dreamy type of goals because I'm just not aiming for that right now. I am starting small. But I still think they're decent climbs because if I could have done them, I would have. Maybe I am just procrastinating, but I just want to give this whole thing the full effort that it deserves. And so before I get into the goals, full disclosure, I had a very long list. But I felt like what I have decided on for this are the goals that I have the most bandwidth to go hard on. The book lays out some principles that determine an individual's effectiveness and success, and they have broken them down into 3 parts: accountability, commitment, and greatness in the moment. Greatness in the moment is actually really lovely. So the book says greatness in the moment is when an individual makes the choice to do what is necessary to become great. The results are not the attainment of greatness, but simply confirmation of it. I'm also seeing that it is the decision to break my fast 2 hours early or forego a warm pumpkin spice latte for a nice cup of black coffee. It's fine. It's fine.
Good riddance is what they said.
Here is how I am laying out my goals and breaking them down and down and down and down. Okay, so goal number 1, building up my YouTube account. Hi, welcome to my YouTube. This is one of my first videos. So I just started this account. It is an infant. I started it though with intention, and I do want to actually take steps for it to grow. And I'm taking many behind the scenes steps, which is great, but I want to really get on board with that consistency train. I haven't yet thought about the metrics I might use to measure this just yet because that has a lot of parts to it. If you're a longtime YouTuber, then you probably know what I'm talking about, but it's just like posting is a whole thing. One of my strategies is to post 2 times a week. Research, engagement strategy, continue to work through Ali Abdal's part-time YouTuber Academy, generate even more of those ideas that like I actually want to talk about, and I want to put them in a Notion database. I can kind of see where I'm at in the process on those things, and that's just really, it's all a part of being consistent. Goal number 2 is to organize my freelance finances. I have been freelancing for a little over 5 years, and I've been doing basically everything right, but I'm not really doing them as efficiently as I could be. So I want to do a complete overhaul. Here's how I laid out my strategies for achieving this. I have a business account, but because I kind of just started doing that earlier this year, a lot of my business expenses are spread out over whichever card has more advantageous perks like miles and cash back or points, whatever. So I need to get all that into one place or it's totally useless. Next up, I am combining some things with my boyfriend, and his existing tax manager should also become my tax manager. So I haven't met him yet. So before I throw everything at him and hope that we're on the same track, I actually want to meet him and make sure that we're on the same page. And if not, then I'll need to find a different tax manager to complete the setup process within HoneyBook and get more comfortable with onboarding clients and processing payments and so on. To print my current business receipts for the first part of 2023. I did it in Q1, but I've been a little inconsistent of printing those off. That's a fairly simple task. It just takes doing, because I obviously haven't done it. So goal number 3 is to build up a fitness routine. And when I said this to a friend of mine, they were just like, you already have a fitness routine. And that's not a lie. But I've been in the process of building a fitness routine for about a year. I've been able to be pretty consistent about attending HIIT workouts a couple of times a week. The goal is to use that as a foundation to build on. Up my HIIT workout classes to about 4 to 5 times a week, to walk around 25,000 steps a day. So that's about 10 miles. This should be possible thanks to an impulsive Prime Day purchase, which was a walking pad, super trendy, but a lot of people have asked me about it and I truly use it every single day. While it's a little more fitness adjacent, I've also been trying intermittent fasting. And so I'm doing 16 hours of fasting and 8 hours of non-fasting. This one is tricky though, because you know, by the time the 12 weeks is over for me right now, it'll be in the beginning of December. So I've got all of October and November with lots of events. So we'll see how that works with my schedule. So I'm just gonna play it by ear and see how adaptable I can be in these situations. My gym also just recently started offering strength focused classes, which is an area I really want to invest a little more time in. I'm going to try and get in at least one of these classes once every 2 weeks. So workout and walking I can do from home, but the weightlifting I can't really. So I really want to push myself in that area. So this is important to me. So I've just got to figure it out. So one class at least every 2 weeks. And we'll see how that goes. I might add to that if it turns out that I can become available for some of those other times. My 4th goal is to create/build a writing portfolio. I always wanted to be a writer, and it's been kind of an interesting evolution because I still say that I'm a writer, and I am a writer. I am a copywriter. I do a good deal of writing in my everyday life as a job as well. You can see my work on websites, articles, blogs. I write commercials. I've written scripts for things. Like, there's a lot of writing going on, but for sure that wasn't exactly the type of writing that I thought I'd be doing when I was younger, which was definitely more literary, I guess you would say. And so I do kind of want to get back into that, at least for the purpose of having some bylines that I think are going to be important as I continue on in my freelance work. So this year I just like to expand on that a little bit. My strategies for doing that are to submit to 2 publications a week. I was just in a really great free course by Amber Petty, who I'll link below, and it was all about just like creative writing as a freelance career, which again I do, but I had not really gotten to the place where I was regularly pitching editors and publications. So her course opened up kind of a whole new space in my brain for that kind of thing. So
No, I'll talk to her. Yes, I'll tell her she has no right to lay this financial and psychological burden on us.
that'll be part of my goal, and we'll just see how that goes. The next thing is that I want to create a database similar to something I've said earlier for different projects, just so I can track the kind of ideas that I'm coming up with, what publications they might be good for, if and when I submit to who, all of that stuff, because I think it involves a fair amount of tracking if I want to stay on top of it. So getting into that, I need to create a list of story ideas. I feel like I'm always coming up with good ideas and they're probably stuck in my notes app somewhere. And I need to find a better place to put those ideas, and maybe also just arrange a time to get those things from my notes app and into a Notion doc or spreadsheet or whatever I decide to use. And lastly, as part of that is to post 1 blog a week week to my website, essayem-creative.com. I do post there pretty regularly, but it's looking more like once a month. And so I'd like to be more consistent. I feel like if I'm already making, YouTube videos 2 times a week, if I'm already posting to other social media about topics that I'm interested in and topics that relate to this, then creating a blog from those ideas just kind of makes sense, and I feel like also gives me a space to expand on them and have a conversation within a community. I think it's a great way to get me back into the habit of consistently writing. So I'm really excited about how that one will shape up. So that's it. Those are my 4 big goals for the 12-week year. It's kind of taken a lot to walk through this process, but I think, the whole planning thing is just critical. And as I started writing this down in my Notion doc, you can kind of see it over here, but it's basically just a repeat. Every week I'll put the same 4 goals because those are the same things that I'm working toward each week. And basically what will change is just how I'm trying to get there. So, maybe once I have a text manager, for instance, I won't include that checkpoint anymore. It might go to something else like give text manager documents or things like that. This is where I'm getting started. I'm still watching videos on other people's experiences with a 12-week year because I'm gonna need that motivation. And if you've ever done the 12-week year before or you're interested in doing it, please let me know. I'm very curious to hear about your experience. And honestly, if anyone wants to jump on, please do. Misery loves company. I hope to be able to update this in a few weeks, which will be, honestly, now it's probably like 2 weeks will be the kind of like first quarter of the 12 weeks, and just kind of see where I'm at and how my goals have changed, if I'm keeping up, if it's sustainable and all of that. And I'll have a couple other check-ins throughout. And, then I'll have a final check-in once the 12 weeks are over. So please stay tuned and let me know how your journey on the 12-week year is going as well. And I will see you all in the next video.